It gets geekier panel. Thanks for coming. Yeah. This is about a panel about how being geeky and queer turned out for the best. First, let's introduce our lovely panelists here. I've actually never said your name before. Is it James Tynion IV? Is that who this is right here? Yeah. The Woods, Detective Comics, co-starring Batman, Batwoman, and Batman as the leads. Also, we have the writer of Virgil, Supergirl, Midnighter, and then Midnighter and Apollo, Steve Orlando. We have a person who's responsible for drawing many Marvel comics. And a particular favorite of mine is the one where Iceman came out in all new X-Men. That's Kris Anka. And then the person responsible for such enjoyable comics as Nimona and Lumberjanes, Noelle Stevenson. And my fellow comics journalist at the end there, UCB comedian and swimsuit enthusiast, Brett White. Oh, and it's for CBR, which is pretty cool. You know, it was actually Brett and I were just talking, like, wouldn't it be cool to do like a panel with our favorite, you know, queer comic creators, and that was just, it was like a month or two before Comic-Con.
Yes.
And we just thought that would generally be a great idea just to share these stories and get to know these people, and how those two aspects of their life come together, being queer and being geeky. And I say queer, but I mean, you know, LGBTIAQ, you know, whatever you got. It all counts. Like, you are who you are, and just embracing that identity and like merging it with your geekiness to get a cool career. But then Orlando happened, and I don't mean to bring you down. I'm from Orlando, and I lived there for a while. And my best friend, Drew Leinen, as well as one of his boyfriend Ron, were two of the victims. And sorry. And I just really got to thinking of how, like, if a young, like, queer person were thinking, like, you know, tomorrow I'm gonna come out, and then, like, Orlando happened, like, they would be, like, scared back in their closet forever. So I thought, like, now, more than ever, like, we need to have, like, open conversations about this and how important it is to embrace your identity and not be feared or hated or hidden. So I feel like the importance of this panel is like skyrocket. Obviously, I think horrible things have always been happening. We've always made this. This is just like a big reminder. And so, you know, actually, as a side note, I started a campaign for Drew because he was a huge Star Wars fan, since we talked about the most. And this campaign, if you search for the hashtag put Drew in Star Wars, so that's on change.org, we're petitioning Lucasfilm to use him as the inspiration for the first ever gay Star Wars character in a movie. And I know it's a long shot, but hey, never tell me the odds, right? So if you're interested in supporting that, please go online and sign a petition, share it with your friends. And I am dedicating this panel to him in memory of Drew, because he did love Star Wars. He read comic books, he was into anime, he was a huge film buff, and you know, he was one of us, you know what I mean? So this goes out to him. Okay, so I didn't mean to bring the mood down, but yeah, so hey guys. I just want to go down the line and have everyone just tell a story about, you know, a time that, you know, your geekdom and your like sexuality collided. You know, whether it's positive or negative, and like sort of like what you got out of it. I know that's like super abstract, but you guys are like masters of your craft when you do tell the story, so I'm sure you're really like super great. So want to start, James?
Yeah, sure. I mean, honestly, it's hard. It's hard not to see them as very intertwined. I mean, part of the reason I got back into comics in like late middle school, early high school was because of a crush on a guy I had, and you know, that's something like, you know, I learned all of the Green Lanterns in order to be able to talk about. I was always more of a Bat fan and an X fan, and you know, that was new territory. So I learned the lot of them. For me, it was the thing I always think about in terms of my career in comics and my sexuality is when I first started in the industry, I hadn't let a lot of people know that I was bisexual. It had stopped really becoming an open conversation in my life, and I kind of let myself slip back into the closet, regardless of the fact that I'd been open about who I am since I was in 8th grade. And it was strange because at first it was this deep, deep fear that on two fronts. One, that I would, if I were out, I would just be a queer creator, and that's all I would be allowed to do. I would only be able to work on queer characters. I would not get the characters I wanted, and most of all, I wouldn't be able to write the Robins. That was my biggest fear starting out at DC, that, someone would find out and not, consciously say, a queer person can't write a Robin, but just, in the back of their head, they would just not want those two things to be near each other because of the historical, aversion to anything Batman and Robin ever being viewed that way. And honestly, it was really, it was a really amazing thing when 2 years ago I finally just I had enough. I hadn't told people who were becoming my close friends who I was, and I just felt like I was sort of shutting down, and I wasn't being myself, and my writing was suffering because I was worried about any little scene sort of revealing anything about myself I didn't want out in the world. And I just posted this long thing. It was on New Year's Eve, and this is who I am. And honestly, it was the moment that I really felt a part of the comics community more than anything, because I just got such amazing response from the fans, and no hatred. And that was the thing that I expected at least a little bit. But I got a lot of love, and even Jeff Johns, the chief creative officer of DC, shot me a text message middle of the night, just being good on you, and it was just it meant so much to me. And here I am, and I'm writing Detective Comics, co-starring a queer, the biggest queer character at DC, and and also Tim Drake, my favorite Robin, at the same time. And it's an amazing feeling to be able to just be who you are unapologetically. I'm writing queer characters in all 3 books that I'm working on right now, and they all reflect me exactly how I want to be, and that's an amazing feeling.
That's awesome. Steve.
I remember. So the intersection of queerness and nerddom, nerdiness. I think it's funny in this industry because, as James said, they are sort of intertwined. It is comics started as an outsider medium, regardless of why you were an outsider. So I think that they do sort of spring forth from the same place, and that's why you see, hopefully a fair amount of acceptance between the two communities. But beyond that, my personal, every interview I've done is about how when I was younger, I was struck really hard when the character I ended up writing in DC, breaking into DC in a real way with Midnighter, appeared in the Authority, and you found out that he was dating Apollo. And for me, it was it was just that moment of, I'm slightly older than James Tynion, so this was all I had was Jack from Will and Grace to learn oh, this is how you be a queer person. And then there was Midnighter, who admittedly was wearing a lot of leather, but was otherwise a very different character, and just so bold and so unabashed about who he was, and sort of righteously averse to conforming to the norm. And that was a big thing for me in saying, and I say it all the time, I stand for bisexuality all the time, and you know, there's no one way to be any type of thing. There's no one way to be gay. There's no one way to be queer. There's no one way to do anything. That's become my platform for the past theta sign years, basically. Like, I mean, you go to parties. I mean, I'm from Central New York, which is generally somewhat more conservative, and you would see these people like that would say they're struggling because they don't feel like they feel as though they have to choose, you know. And I would say, well, you don't have to choose. You just have to be you. And this is something that is pervasive. Through when I was in college and all these things, and all of that, it comes from sort of the message that I learned from that character, and that, yeah, you only have to believe in yourself, and you have to define yourself. And, you know, strong words for anyone, because I don't know what the age group of this room is, but strong words for anyone that disagrees, because they don't matter. And the only other thing I'd say on a funny note is that it really is like, the worlds really are intertwined. Like, there's community everywhere in places that you don't know. Like, the first time I ever worked in DC years ago, you know, and like, well, not so many years ago, but like in 2012, I never met the editorial there yet in person, except for one guy I've known for a long time. And I met this assistant editor that I was working with, and you know, we were talking. And one of the first things we started talking about was actually Havoc from X Factor and his like very 90s poofy like jacket. And I soon found out that like, oh, Havoc was a huge part of my sexual awakening, you know. And specifically with the 90s Joe Quesada jacket. And like you instantly see like, oh, I get this guy. And like, so there is like a little like sense of, I won't say who that was. But like, you are 100% of community in places that you never really would expect to find, and the medium of uncovering those things is comics, is these types of genre stuff, and I think that it's great.
Cool, very cool. Yo, what's up, Kris?
Well, for me, like, because I didn't really realize that I was bi until really recently, a few years ago, I had already had a lot of years, you know, being a nerd and working in comics. There wasn't really a lot of memories, but it really helped sort of forge what my focus was going to be from then on out. And I think it benefited me the most in the fact that I think now I have a very good reputation in the fact that for drawing hot people mostly. It sort of really helped the fact that like being bi helped open the gate of I didn't have to. Everyone was neutral gaze, and I could kind of make everybody hot in a way that wasn't just sort of, oh, that's clearly a guy drawing all this. And I get a lot of resonance from that, in the fact that, you know, a lot of women tell me that Caroline draws hot, and like not a lot of guys tell me that. But then a lot of guys will tell me the puck I draw is really hot. It sort of helped like me focus on what I wanted to do with my career, rather than, you know, having a lot of memories about it.
Equal opportunity hotness.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that spotlight?
Yeah, I guess I came out relatively recently, super recently, depending on, you know, how publicly it was, but I was probably like 2 years ago here. I was on my first queer panel that Shannon Waters asked me to be on, and I was super nervous because I just broken up with my boyfriend, and I was just coming to terms with being gay. And I like hadn't told anybody really yet. And I was like, how can I be on like a queer panel? Because I don't know who I am yet. And it's just been like, and I was on it, and it was great. And just, you know, it's been like this journey from then on of just getting like gayer and gayer and gayer. But like, I don't know, you like get a certain vantage point back on who you were when you were younger, before you ever even had a concept of like who you're going to be. And I just like remember the day I like came home from whatever, I think it was like a Christian craft fair, because that was my upbringing, that was my childhood. I came home from a Christian craft fair, and my sister was watching X-Men, the first X-Men on TV, and Mystique was like on the screen. And I was like, what? Like what? Like who's this like naked blue lady? And like why do I have feelings? It's just the Christian craft fair that's selling greeting cards to old ladies, and all of a sudden all I want to do is like watch this naked blue lady flip around. What's that about? And like, I don't know, I mean, anyone who follows me on Twitter knows that I have this huge, really weird thing for a very, very minor Star Wars character. James knows this. I think I've cornered James at like at least five parties to talk about Sam Russell, who's a bounty hunter in Star Wars Episode 2. But like, as I've gotten older, I realized the ways in which I like, the fact that Sam Russell is such a like androgynous character in a lot of ways. There's like her role in it is very androgynous. She has like no visible hair. Like she, in a world where everyone is either a dancer or a princess, it was very exciting for me as this like 9-year-old kid to like see this person who was so gender neutral in so many ways, and I like became obsessed. I'm still obsessed. Like, who am I kidding? But like, the only way I could see that was like through Star Wars, because the people I was surrounded with were so, you're one way or you're another. You know, you're a man and you do this, you're a woman and you do this. Everyone else is like, that's somewhere we don't go. And like, that was like, the only way I could go there was through Star Wars, was through X-Men, was somewhere where like, everyone was like, they were just all the rules, you know? Like, maybe you're blue and you don't wear clothes, like maybe that's the rule. And like, that was the only way I could like access something that I really, really needed to see, even way before I knew what it was exactly that I needed to see. And yeah, it was probably not until just like Lumberjanes, really recently, before I was able to even just talk about it at all. And it was just really intertwined with comics and with comic characters and with nerd properties. So that's me. I'm super gay.
Two things. Two things. Zan was the bounty hunter, right? Okay, yeah.
Oh, she dies in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's very disappointing.
Yeah.
I didn't care.
Yeah.
She's a
Just want to make sure I know
She's a
you're talking
lizard. Yeah. She turns into a lizard and she dies.
I saw that when I
Yeah.
Did you just Google it?
Yeah, that was so cool. But I was like, you know what? I think I just decided to find lizards attractive. Like, that's how I was like, I didn't know this was going to happen. All you had to tell me about, there's a girl bounty hunter. I was like, fuck yes. And then she dies, like, really fast, it's very disappointing. I was like, find a way to spin this into a positive. And eventually that just became Mona, so, you know, it all worked out.
I understand. When I was quite much younger, I had like a severe obsession with the elf friend from Santa Claus.
Yes.
Some people will even remember that as a movie.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, it was a strange thing. It lasted for a long time. I really wanted to go to the North Pole. And make cookies with her. I envisioned her coming to Syracuse. It was real. Man. Are you in the audience right now? Like where is she?
Cool, thank you. And Brett.
Yeah, I will say that I'm from Tennessee, so I'm Southern boy, and also Southern Baptist, so that's a whole whammy right there. But I do remember as a kid getting like the X-Men #1, the Jim Lee like swimsuit spread of all them like at the pool, and then the like X-Men Fleer Ultra Volume 2 set of like the paint all the X-Men at the beach and Wolverine's in a Speedo cooking hot dogs. I think the biggest intersection between my gayness and my geekiness came out was because I actually had to come out to my parents because I got a job at CPR. It was, I wrote a thing on my Tumblr 5 years ago when they announced Bunker, the DC Teen Titans character, and I wrote just like a thing on my Tumblr, and I used to work at Wizard Magazine, so I have like connections through that, and blah, blah, blah. CBR was like, we want you to write another thing about Bunker for CBR. And I was like, oh, okay, that's going to be on the internet. And because I was out with my friends, and I was out, but I had moved to New York, where it's okay to be gay. So my parents did not know. This was 5 years after I'd been out of the closet. And so I was like, okay, well, this article's going up on Wednesday. I guess I need to get this going. And so I emailed my parents. I did it over email late at night. Because it's like, you're coming out of the closet and you live in a different city. It's like, which family holiday do I want to ruin? By it's like, if I go home for Christmas, do I want to do it like Christmas Eve? Like, so I did it over email, and then I came out, and then that was 5 years ago, and I am now the assistant editor at CBR, and I don't want to say I have both the gay beat, the unofficial gay beat, and the unofficial X-Men paranoia beat. Because that's my intersection right now. So yeah, that's it, I guess.
Thank you. You know, for me, I don't know, it's hard to think of, like I think a lot of you said, is where these things weren't, like, intertwined, it's like part of your DNA. But I remember when I was younger, IGN, which was like my homepage for the longest time, I'm just, you know, a big old nerd, and I went on there and there was a list of like the 10 gay video game characters you didn't know about. And I was like, I got like hot in the chest and just like, my heart was beating very fast. I was like, this is a real article and like IGN's okay posting this? It's like, IGN's like a safe place? And it like changed my mind because being gay was always something that I had to hide or pretend not to be, even though it was like super obvious with me. Please laugh at that. And then when I got this position, I think I've had it like 2.5 years now, like being in charge of IGN Comics. Sure enough, like a gay superhero came out of the closet, Iceman, and it's sort of like all eyes were sort of on me to like say something about it, and it ended up being my highest trafficked piece ever on the site was why it matters if a fictional character is gay. And that's something that I always knew, right? But it was weird to be like, oh, I have to actually put this into words and prove to people who think it doesn't matter. Like, I love people who are like, I don't care if someone's gay or a good story or whatever, quit writing about it. It just needs to be a good story.
Yeah.
And that's so nice. That's so nice for you that you've never had to worry about like your sexuality. And it's like you don't have to go far to look for somebody to look like who's like you. Like if you're gay, you're not North Star. North Star's like a jerk. Like it's someone else to look up to.
North Star was also once canonically half married.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I really should try that.
Let's talk about some
Actually, that just goes with my next thing I wanted to do. I wanted you guys to talk about some of your favorite queer characters and what makes them a good representation of queer characters in comics. And it could be superhero or it could be just normal people or whatever.
Oh boy. I mean, like, North Star is such an interesting character for me, just because I think a lot of us probably fixated a bit on him because he was the only openly, visibly gay character out there for a long time. And, like, honestly, one of the stories that mattered a lot to me while I was in high school was the Chuck Austin, and I know his run on X-Men is not always on everyone's favorite list, but there was this whole storyline about him being in love with Iceman, who at the time was not an out character in comics, and it was the experience of falling in love with someone who could never, who would never fall back in love with you, and it was a story I had never seen represented like in any medium, let alone in a superhero comic book, and like honestly, that I think that was at the same time of Morrison's New X-Men. It's like that was the better comic book, but the Chuck Austin run, I got every single issue of that, and I ate it up because I saw myself there. I saw that kind of longing and desperation. Like I went to an all-boys Catholic high school. They were all guys would change in the halls. It wasn't fair, but it was it was a feeling I knew very, very well. But it really it's funny because you're right. North Star is also a bit of an asshole. He's full of himself. He's not really the most likable guy. Even his sister doesn't seem to hang out with him anymore. And it's just I don't it. But that even those scraps were important. like growing up. Like I remember even the Scott Lobdell Eve of Destruction storyline that had the really not that great gay character in it who was only there in it for like it was the homophobic character, and it was just like, but it was actually
telling,
yeah.
Turned to stone.
Yeah.
It existed.
Yeah, it sure did. But it was just like, just seeing it on there, and it just, looking back, it just shows how starved I was for any kind of representation. I was looking for what I was going through and what I was thinking on the page, and it just wasn't really there. And now, you know, I don't know. Right now, I'm the character I'm most fixated on, which feels like the wrong, cheap answer is Batwoman, just because I'm writing Batwoman right now, so I've reread like every issue that starred Batwoman like 6 times, and you know, she's the co-lead of Detective Comics, and it's like, you know, figuring out exactly, you know, how to develop the character, how to bring her forward, and she's just such a badass character that, like, I love her so much, and she's so unabashedly who she is, and it's in her DNA, it's in her origin story, and it's just like, it's so powerful that this is a character who gets to headline the book that, you know, DC takes its name from, and I'm glad I get to be a part of that.
Cool, that's awesome. Anyone, just group discussion. It's open for. Brett, what do you got?
Iceman, really. Because I also, like you said, like, I did not know I was gay until I was 21, because I'm also not a Will or a Jack, or, like, I never saw gay men like me. And so seeing Iceman, adult Iceman, coming out at the age of, well, I mean, like, it's Marvel age, so 25 to 50? It really, like, struck a chord with me. And I also, every time a gay thing, being a comic journalist, and every time a gay thing happens in comics, you do feel like this pressure of like, well, I gotta weigh in. I might have other things on my mind right now, but I gotta weigh in. And so like when Iceman came out, it was also the 10-year anniversary of me coming out of the closet, or coming out to myself. It was like November 5th, 2005, and that came out November 6th, 2015. So it was like this like big moment. I bought a little Iceman statue for myself. It was like a 10-year anniversary present. So now I'm super invested in Iceman. I wish you would wear better clothes, because I don't understand like the giant like thing that her brother almost has in it right now. Get back down to the Speedo, Bobby, is what I'm saying. You're out of the closet.
Was it a Speedo and then like a bandana or anything?
Ultimately, yeah.
That was the old one.
Yeah. It was a Speedo and big boots. That's what.
I think, I'm like thinking back over like, who were the lesbian characters growing up? And I'm like having a lot of trouble. Maybe they were there, but I like didn't see them because I was Presbyterian and Southern. But like, I felt like I gravitated more towards like female characters who were like fluid in their gender presentation. So like short hair, and I didn't cut my hair short until I was 15, but like seeing short-haired women on TV was like the Hallelujah chorus would start playing. Like it was this epiphany to me, and I like couldn't figure out. I think one time I saw this like woman on TV, and she had short hair. I was like, oh my god, who's that? And then she turns and you see she has a bun on the back of her head, and I was like, oh, forget it. And I was like, I don't know, like it was just like the fact that she had really short hair was like so like interesting, exciting to me. And then she secretly had long hair, and I was like no longer interested. It was like such a simple thing. And now it's like it's really funny because like now I'll like get reduced to tears by like watching like Imagine Me and You or whatever, like oh the lesbians are happy, and I just like now I'm like really mushy, but I feel like through a lot of my growing up, like while I was growing up, I didn't like want to see people happy. I didn't like, want to see people in love. I just wanted to see people who are really awesome and like confident and comfortable with themselves, and like occasionally like dressed in drag. I don't know, like or just, you know, like lady pirates who like dressed as men. Like that was like really, really exciting for me. And it was less about, I don't know. I guess Mystique is queer, which I didn't know at the time, but like definitely latched onto her from a really early age. I would argue that like most shapeshifters are pretty fluid in their presentations, so, or literally fluid in their presentations. So the fact that I latched onto the shapeshifters from an early age is no mistake. But yeah, I don't know. I can't. Like, who the queer characters were when I was growing up, or maybe I'll think of some as like you guys go. But it was like, there's a lot less about that than about like, oh, Velma. I loved Velma the most, and then I read like in a newspaper, it was like cartoon characters who were secretly gay, and it was like a rude article. It was like being really mean about it. And it was like, Velma's gay. And I was like, no, she's not. And then I was like, I don't know. I would get really mad when she got like a straight romance, like way before, I don't know, I just started getting really defensive of her.
From Scooby-Doo?
Yeah, from Scooby-Doo.
How do you know that?
How did I not know that?
I did not know that.
You did not know, I mean,
She's talking
she's never had it's never been a canon, but everyone knows it.
Okay, that's fair. What about you, Kris?
Well, parents is a good transition because mine is from Black Sails. It's Captain Flint. And I think my male characters were already very sparse as it is. And he was kind of the first, I think it was kind of the first big show I really got into after coming out. And then it was Captain Flint, and he's bi, and that was great. But also the fact that he's also super goddamn intense. And everyone knows me, I'm super goddamn intense. So like, I was just this affinity of like, you can be queer and be like just this asshole. Like, great, perfect, love it. Yeah, so it's just fled through.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen that show, but that was like a twist, right? Like,
Yeah.
You knew. You always know. Yeah, I feel like, I think Iceman, and maybe it's just so recent that it's present in my mind of, I think his reasoning is really interesting to me of like, it's bad enough that I'm a mutant, I didn't want to deal with being gay too. And I feel like I was already like unlikable and like nerdy and like bad at sports, except tennis, what's up? And I played the flute and stuff, so I was like, I'm already dealing with all this stuff, like I don't have to deal with being gay on top of that. But eventually, you kind of come to terms with it. And then it kind of all worked out. So, yeah. So we actually have about 10-15 minutes left. There's a mic right here. You guys want to line up? This guy flew out of this. He's got a really good gay.
All the way from Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Just want to line up, and we'll go until we run out of time. So what's your name?
Brian.
Ryan?
Brian.
Yes. Would it be, what's up, man?
More of a comment for Kris and a comment for Brett. Kris, you already brought it up, but I gotta tell you, I've always had a crush on Puck. I've always found him hot. But your Captain Marvel #1 knocked me out of my chair. That scene where he's lifting weights in the gym while he's talking to Carol, wow. He's not just shirtless, he's like a thick, hairy bear. I mean, it's hot. Hot. So
That was the fun part.
thank you for that. Are you signing at all this week?
Yeah, I was signing for Marvel.
Okay.
Whenever Joe Quesada is also doing it, so that's no pressure.
Right. And then Brett, I want you to know how important your column is to me because I'm close to you in age, and I think I'm not from the South, but I think we went through similar experiences.
Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to say was, you talk a lot about the X-Men and how they were like a metaphor for you, for the whole isolation thing. And for you, it was a legion of superheroes growing up in the 80s. Timberwolf's hairy chest made me realize I was gay. And the column that you wrote the week after Orlando, where you expressed your anger and your frustration, you verbalized so many things that I didn't even know that I was feeling. And when you said how if being gay is the label that is getting us killed, then that is the label that we need to push forward.
Yeah.
That is the label that needs to be in everyone's faces. And I'm part of the podcast. I'm from a tiny little place called Reading, Pennsylvania. And I'm part of the podcast on Thursday nights, and I'm the only gay one in the group. And we got into that whole thing about how, it's okay to have gay characters in a book, but really, why do they got to go into their lifestyles? Why do they have to make a big deal about it? And when I literally got out, I pulled up your article on my phone, and I read word for word that whole column about the labels. and how I can be killed just for being gay.
Yeah.
We need to have characters that have their own books, like, even though he's an asshole, even like John.
I love North Star book.
And Midnighter.
Yes.
So I'm very frustrated right now with Marvel and DC for that reason, and I'm glad you expressed that.
Yeah,
So thank you.
Thank you. A lot of people, I know that the Hercules thing happened where a lot of pushback was like, well, we don't want to label Angela or Hercules and things like that. But it's like, we don't have any problem labeling Ms. Marvel as like a Muslim Pakistani New Jersey teenager. We don't have a problem labeling Black Panther as like African. But for some reason, it's weird that we have a problem. Yeah, maybe as like a New Jersey superhero. Oh boy. So yeah, labels are important if you choose the label for yourself.
I think that was the best question where he didn't actually ask a question. but thank you, Fred.
And thank you for having this panel. I just want to say I've reached an age where I don't come here for exclusives and I don't come here for like whole age stuff. But the fact that you guys have stuff like this is more important to me than anything else that happens here. So thank you.
What can I say?
Yeah. What's your name?
My name is Michael.
Michael. What's up, Michael?
Not a whole lot.
What's on your life?
So we talked about the Iceland thing, about how we came out of the closet, and now we're hearing sort of the same sorts of things about Sulu and the new Star Trek movie. And a lot of people, aren't liking taking these classic characters and changing them in this way. And then there's this whole other argument online, or in person, wherever you might be, about tokenism. Like if you created a new gay character, it would just be the defining characteristic would be, this is the gay character, he is a token, that's how most people are going to view him. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Like if you turn an existing character, turn him gay, you know what I mean? If you make an existing character gay, and then you create a new character, that's tokenism. It's sort of like you can't win. So what are your thoughts on turning characters gay or creating new gay characters and the pros and cons of each?
Actually, when I heard that, I was like, I should have put Drew in Star Trek instead of Star Wars. It's so much easier.
I honestly think that it's a false argument that people make when they want to, they just don't want to see anybody different from them in comics or whatever media. Like, I think that, these characters are flexible as long as you don't break them. You can do a lot with them. If you want to turn all the characters gay, make a bunch of new gay characters, do both at the same time. That's, yeah.
And like, if you come here 3 years ago and be like, Noelle, are you gay? Like, what? No. Like, don't label me, man. Like, and that's something that happens. People say they're straight, like, aren't. People say they're gay, and it gets more complicated than that. Like, people are flexible. Like, people, the way they label themselves, it might shift. Like, it's part of a lot of queer people's experiences, not everyone's experience, but it's a very common thing. It's like, I think it's totally within the realm of possibility that Sulu didn't always identify as gay, and now he does. Like, why is this so hard to believe about that? Like, it's just, and like, why can't there also be a new gay character, which there is, like, Like,
there's also picking up on the work that, like, Chris Claremont in the 80s, Storm and Yukio were boning. Like, we know that. There's subtext. Like, Storm meets a random wild spirit woman who then takes her out and she comes back wearing a leather vest and a mohawk. It's like, we know, like, Chris Claremont wanted that, but it was the 80s, so he couldn't say that. Like, he had Mystique and Destiny living together, but couldn't say they were married or, like, lovers. Like, he had these, like, so, like, if you made Storm bisexual, which she is, but if you had a writer come out and say it, you'd have people be like, why are you making this character gay now? And it's like, no, Chris Claremont wanted to do that 30 years ago.
I think the thing is, too, is that it is kind of it's sort of what James said, you are in that situation, because I did that, when we announced Midnighter, you're kind of damned either way for certain crowds, and you just have to push through and have confidence in what you're doing. In the case of Midnighter, it was like, oh, well, DC has a gay character, but he's not one that matters. It'll matter when you make Green Arrow gay or something like that. So that's one thing. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. It's sort of a thing. And the opposite is exactly what you said. Well, he was created this way from the start. And it's the only thing.
there is no real, I think, simple answer to it, because there's an inherent power, for example, in aligning sort of a gay character with a legacy that extends 60 to 70 years, characters like, I'm just going to stick on Green Arrow, that were created in the 1930s or 40s, you can't artificially manufacture the importance of it. And so then it becomes important that now, like, this is, if you want Green Arrow, well, now he's gay, and that's a strong statement. But then you have the people that, well, you just changed him. I mean, so I think it's whatever you do, and when I create new characters, you just have to be confident, and then what James says is true. You just have to do both, because there is, it's no secret that comic readers have opinions. The answer is to have more. The answer is to have more representation, so that it's never an either or, because you want to get that message through to everyone, and you can't do it with one character, regardless of which side you fall on.
Awesome, thank you guys.
Thank you, thanks for the question. What's your name?
Hi, Michael from PA. So,
Awesome, cool.
so writers, they always say they pull from life experience in their own situation. What would be a storyline that you would say is like a hallmark story for like your life experience?
Crisis on the I mean, the book Enigma, actually, from Vertigo, is like, it's hugely influential to me, which if you guys haven't read, is a great queer-focused book that was by Peter Milligan and Joshua Yehl, and which I found both like horrifying and extremely romantic, and also, quite disruptive, all of which are things that I hope I am at different times. So, but I mean, as for specific storylines, like I certainly didn't, in the case of Enigma, like, find a god in a well that can change my life. But all those things I think are metaphorical, for what we go through.
I mean, like, in terms of the hallmark stories, the things that, like, honestly, it's a lot of what I'm trying to express in my own work now. Like, I think a lot of my creator own work is just me trying to figure out, like, my feelings from high school. Like, I have The Woods, where I have, a lot of queer characters who are approaching queerness from different directions, and you have Isaac's isolation and depression, and, being in love with someone who will never love him back, and then you have Ben, like, who just hates himself because of his size and, the belief that he's unlovable. And you have Tsunami, who's trying to, who's a bit more confident, but also a bit more, like, struggling through, her place in the world, and she uses confidence as kind of, a defense around that. And now I'm doing an all-ages book called The Backstagers that's about trying to find community for the first time, and that's about my experience my freshman year of high school. It's like, now, because there are fewer stories that did mirror my life experience, I'm sort of, not like, doomed is the wrong word, but it's like I'm sort of locked in to recreate those experiences and try to express them, because I think a lot of people can find the stories that mirror their life experiences, and they find meaning through those, and I didn't have that, so that's what I'm trying to do.
Cool, thank you. Okay, we're almost out of time. I think we have enough time for, is this 1, 2, 3? Yeah, let's do it. 4. Okay, we can do it.
Okay, hi, I'm Leah.
Hello.
I'm really pleased we've already had the conversation about existing characters and new characters being created. So that's a really important conversation. But just for funsies, if you could take any existing character from anything, who do you want to give a good story to? Everybody can just.
Wait, who? What's the question? Who would we make?
Yeah, if you could pick any character from any franchise,
Also usually, I try.
Yeah. Dum dum doo doo.
Namor for me. I think it's pretty obvious, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm struggling because I think I do have an answer, but I work on the character.
Everyone's gonna know.
Yeah. I don't know. There are certain friendships in the Jeff Johns Teen Titans run that mean a lot to me, so I'll leave it at that.
I didn't think we were going to get news out of this family.
Oh man, I don't know. There's so many good answers that would please large swaths of the community, like Ted Grant Wildcat. Which maybe that's the answer. I'm unsure. No, the answer is Monel, actually, but only when joined by Renato Guedes.
For me, I think it's Link from Zelda. It's like, yeah! Hey, listen. Thank you for the question. Hi, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Janice. I actually was going to ask the exact same question. So, but I just also wanted to say thank you for having bisexuals on the panel, because as a married bisexual, a woman who's married to a man but who's bisexual, I often sort of feel invisible. And
Come to our bisexuality
really,
Sunday.
really enjoying. I've tried to make that. I'm really enjoying talking bisexual society and public society.
Thank you guys for giving us such a wide net to just get people that I knew who were a lot of those comic creators, and I wasn't actually sure of how they identified, and not that that really matters, but it does matter, right? And also, I forgot to mention at the beginning, Shannon Waters was also going to be on the panel, but she had to work. I guess somebody's got to work. We're all here. But yeah, she couldn't be here, and she sends her love and support and all that stuff. So what's your name?
Marlon.
Marlon?
Marlon.
Marlon. What's up, man?
Yeah. I was curious, if you were trying to create a character based on not only your own experiences, but also some experiences of friends you know, like one that's struggling on his own sexuality and identity, but also another where you don't know where you stand on like the feelings towards another, you know, unrequited love, don't know if they'll love you back or much as just outright hate you. And another character where they're straight, yet they have a strong bond with the character that's struggling with his self-identity, and you don't know how to go forward with that thought of development, both in emotional stance and psychological stance.
Oh.
Sorry, what was the question?
I mean, I think it was. I think I followed that.
Yeah.
I think that like it's your fiction. You can shape that the way you want to, and I think that frankly, getting caught into what like you can create limitations on characters, and like there's an interesting story in someone who thinks of themselves as straight and are straight, except they have very powerful feelings for somebody, and that's something that there's like there's story there's stuff that you can explore. You just have to sit down and decide what is the type of story you want to tell. And I think a lot of people on this panel would just be like, yeah, just have them like start making out in the junk. Like,
There's only one way to find out.
Yeah. But honestly, just sort of sit with it, decide, and like see what happens. Like write it down, and if it doesn't feel right, like try it a different way.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll try to make it fast.
What was your name?
Mark.
What's up, Mark?
Just really fast. I want to say, huge fan of you and Lumberjanes, but do any of you find it difficult in this age where we, right or wrongly, or want it or not, we know a lot more about the people who write comics and books and entertainment than we have maybe at any other time. Do you find it difficult that if there's a comic book, that if you know something about the artist or the writer, depending on if they are religious or not, or their political leanings, or things that they have said on the internet that may be incredibly offensive to you? Do you find it difficult to take their work at face value, knowing things about them that really turn you off? Because I imagine that one of the reasons for a lot of people, why if they're gay or bisexual or whatever, that they worry about coming out to themselves, to anybody, is, not just because they worry about how their friends and their family or whatever, but how it may affect their career. Like you were saying, like what kind of different work do we get? I just came from a Mormons in comics panel, and I couldn't help but think about the whole backlash where there were people talking about, well, should we go see Interesting because Orson Scott Card we think is a horrible, bigoted monster, whether he's making money off of it or not. I find that issue interesting, and among my family and friends, we don't always agree what the right and the wrong thing is to do.
I feel like it's weird because it's like, it's like, would I judge someone because of their religion or choose not to pick up a comic? I'm like, no, of course not. Like, there's a way, if someone is homophobic, that's not an identity. That's like someone who like has a problem with how other people exist in the world. And it's like, that will show up in their work. Like, I mean, it depends on how public they are about that view. There are people who I probably don't know are homophobic, whose work I still enjoy. It's really, really hard for me to like consume work from someone who I know hates me and my friends and maybe wants us to not exist. I think that's fair. I don't think that like you can stereotype every, person of faith who are like, just because you tie them with, Mormons and comics. Like I definitely like know that like I still have a lot of friends who are Christians and who are Southern, and like I don't think that everybody is homophobic who belongs to those groups. Those are like different identities. A lot of them intersect. There are like gay Christians and gay Mormons. But someone who's outspoken about being homophobic, that absolutely would affect my relationship with their work and make me not want to support it, for sure.
And we're just giving a wrap-up single. Sorry, guys. Thank you so much for your question. A huge round of applause.
Always a moderator, member of panelists.
Oh, this is your first time as a panelist. How did you guys? And thank you. Enjoy the rest of Comic-Con. Bye.